Information discussed in this podcast may be sensitive in nature to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Duane Murphy served as a lead technician for his company, a job that took him out of town often. Duane, the father of a little girl and one more on the way, didn't like being away from his family for so long, but he was a hard worker and he needed to provide for his family. In the summer of 2017, Duane left his home in Georgia on a work trip that took him to Laredo, Texas. On June 2nd, 2017, Duane didn't show up to meet the crew for work. A couple of guys went to check his hotel room, found his cell phone and wallet, and called his family. No one knew where Duane was. The police would be eventually notified. It was quickly realized that the police had picked up Duane the night before for erratic behavior, which included screaming and running naked in the streets. Duane had been taken to a hospital for evaluation, but the hospital released him shortly after. Duane has not been seen or heard from since. Where is Duane Murphy? Hello, everyone, and welcome to a bonus episode of the Where Are They podcast. The case of Duane Murphy is mysterious, but not just his disappearance in and of itself, but because of Duane's strange behavior in the hours leading up to his disappearance. It just doesn't make any sense. This case is approaching the 5-year mark since Duane went missing. It's been far too long that his family, which includes 2 very young daughters, has had to go without having any answers. Duane is described as a kind man, the type of guy that would help anyone out who needed it. In 2017, he had a baby girl at home and another one on the way with his fiancée. Duane is also described by everyone that knew him as a hard worker. He had been working for his company for 12 years when he would mysteriously vanish on a work trip on June 2nd, 2017. Duane was living in Georgia with his family when he and his work crew had a trip scheduled to Laredo, Texas. Duane traveled often for work with his crew, and he served as a lead technician. On Friday, June 2nd, his crew waited for Duane to meet up with them, just like they always did. When he didn't show and they couldn't reach him, they eventually checked his room and were able to gain access. Inside his room, they found his keys, his cell phone, and his wallet, but no sign of Duane, which of course makes no sense. He couldn't have gone very far without his keys and his wallet. When they still couldn't locate Duane or figure out where he was, they called his fiancée back home to see if maybe she might know what was going on. But she had no idea, and by now, everyone was getting worried. This was not like Duane at all, their responsible and hardworking crew leader. Eventually, everyone was worried enough that they called the police. The Laredo police came and took the report and soon realized that this man they were describing to them sounded familiar. Sure enough, the Laredo police knew Duane Murphy. Allegedly, the night before, which was Thursday, June 1st, someone had called the police to report a man acting erratically and running around naked in the streets of Laredo. The police located this man and they took him to the hospital for a checkup and possible treatment, not sure what was wrong with him. It was completely unclear what was causing this man to act like this. When law enforcement made the connection that that person that they picked up the night before was the missing person report they were in the middle of taking, they called the hospital to verify. And they learned that Duane was no longer in the hospital. The hospital had released him because, despite his erratic behavior, they said that he seemed to calm down and they didn't really think he was a danger to himself or others, so they had to let him go. Now, everyone was confused. This erratic acting man that was described to them didn't sound anything like the Duane they knew, the family man and the responsible team leader. It just didn't make any sense at all. Not only did it not make any sense, but where was Duane now? Why didn't he return to his hotel room after he was released? So the search for Duane began. Some of Duane's family members came into town and they hit the streets to look for him. They delivered flyers and they just talked to everyone that they knew. Some sightings did start to come in, but still they could not find Duane. Duane's fiance started a GoFundMe to help raise enough money so she could stay in Laredo. She needed to find her fiance, and this poor woman not only has a young child, but is pregnant with their second. Staying in Laredo would mean that she needed money for food, hotel, and expenses to go out and about every day. Authorities were baffled as well. Did Duane have a mental break? He was 39 years old. It was noted that he was a bit older than the typical age when a schizophrenic break might set in, but could it be something else? Did Duane possibly become involved in drugs? They start to investigate some of these sightings that came in. Multiple people thought they saw him taking his clothes off and jumping in the river in Laredo. When he came out of the river, once again, he didn't have any clothes on, and no one saw exactly where he went from there. But it was thought that he went into Nuevo Laredo, Mexico. So did Duane indeed cross the border? Law enforcement in Laredo alerted authorities over in Mexico, and the search for Duane now spanned across the border. He was specifically seen near the Gateway to the Americas International Bridge, which is also known as just the International Bridge. And the International Bridge is one of 4 bridges, vehicle bridges, that connects Laredo, Texas to Nuevo Laredo, Mexico. The bridge goes over the Rio Grande River. The Rio Grande River is a concern here. This river is huge. It expands over 1,800 miles, although the sightings did say that he exited the river with no clothes on. So again, we are left with the questions. Why was Duane, a 39-year-old father who had never exhibited behaviors like this before, why was he taking his clothes off and jumping in the Rio Grande River? This had to be either a psychological break or mental breakdown, or possibly drugs, neither of which Duane had ever shown signs of before. There would also be very little media coverage of Duane's disappearance, despite the very bizarre circumstances. He was seen alive, walking into Mexico, supposedly, and it's believed that he was alive in Mexico shortly after the time he vanished. Authorities have said that the sightings of Duane in the river and going into Nuevo Laredo, Mexico, have been confirmed. They are certain those sightings were that of Duane Murphy. But yet here we are, 5 years later, Duane Brian Murphy is still missing. Is Duane alive and well, living in Mexico? Did he maybe return back to the United States? Did something happen to him in Mexico? There have been no confirmed documented sightings of Duane since 2017. Duane is described as an African-American male, 39 years old when he vanished, and would today be 44. He is 6 foot 1 inches tall and weighed around 210 pounds in 2017. He has black hair, brown eyes, and Duane also has a tattoo of a cross on his upper right arm. Anyone with information on Duane Brian Murphy's whereabouts is asked to call the Laredo Police Department at 956 795 2904. Such a bizarre and sad story. Duane seems like a hardworking man who now has 2 young girls, one young daughter whom he never even met. Hopefully, one day, his daughters will know their father. Please share Duane's story, his name, his case, any way you can. We will share his photos on social media and his information. Please make sure you are following us over on Instagram at the Where Are They Podcast. We are on Twitter at Can We Find Them? And check out our Facebook page by searching Where Are They Podcast. If you have any feedback or case suggestions for us, please send me a DM or an email at canwefindthem@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening to Duane's story today. I know there isn't much information out there, but he is still a missing man whose family misses him dearly. We will be back again next week with another unsolved missing person case. And until then, stay safe and hug your loved ones.